Writers, authors, creatives, and podcast listeners, do you ever suffer from writer's block? Announcing a season devoted to my new book, Bust Writer's Block Forever. The question is, have you ever suffered writer's block? That moment when you want to jump ship, give up, say nasty things to yourself, or whip yourself into a frenzy to beat a deadline. This book comes to the rescue, bridging my expertise in energy psychology and a nod to ChatGPT. So let's say it's like EFT tapping meets ChatGPT chatting in a new and exciting way that helps you get to the root cause of the beliefs and what I call gold traumas keeping you stuck. So listen up. In this episode, I'll be giving you an overview of the book, followed by a series for the season of busting writer's block. My idea is to launch this book into the world and to help as many writers as possible to bust through their blocks and unleash their creative genius. Hello and welcome to the Write the Book Inside You podcast. Tips, tools, and interviews for coaches and healers like you who want to write a non-fiction book to boost your visibility, clients, and cash flow while making a difference. I'm your host, Caryl Westmore, a multi-published author and energy psychology tapping book coach. Now let's jump into today's episode. Hello, Caryl Westmore here. And in this video, I'm going to walk you through Bust Writer's Block book, which is coming out August the 31st and will be available in print and ebook form. Now, the reason I'm doing this is so that you can write an easy review, which I'd love, or recommend it to your friends and colleagues. The book is divided into two parts because you need to understand the foundations, which is part one, of what writer's block really is, and my take on it, which is different from people like Stephen Pressfield, who talk about fighting it like a foe. My way is a softer approach, which I also talked about in my other book, The Inner Path of Writing. But in this book, we dive into some of the tools that address your inner game as a writer. And I explain that in the foundations, part one. In part two, we dive deep into each of the 7 tools and a bonus chapter. So I'll walk you through those briefly. So the first tool is the work of Byron Katie. We learn in that chapter that it helped Elizabeth Gilbert, the multi-million bestseller of Eat, Pray, Love. After she produced that book, and it was such a raving success, she had a kind of writer's block. Gilbert told Oprah that she had creative paralysis, which almost stymied her from continuing with her writing until she discovered the work of Byron Katie. In the next chapter on Havening or Havening techniques, we look at the self-soothing way that you can address your anxieties and blocks. In chapter 7, The Journey, Banish Your Silent Saboteurs, I begin by saying, imagine this. You're a Hollywood screenwriter who has just been advanced $1 million to complete a script, but you're spinning with desperate anxiety because you're blocked. You've tried all the usual advice, but as your deadline looms, you reach out to a friend of a friend who recommends Brandon Bayes, creator of a process called The Journey. And then I describe what that is. And later in the chapter, you'll hear how this same Hollywood screenwriter ended up feeling unstuck after his journey process and going back to write his screenplay and eventually telling Brandon 2 years later that he won an Academy Award for the movie Sleepless in Seattle. Chapter 8, I had to include EFT tapping, kissing writer's block goodbye. Chapter 9, logo synthesis, based on an interview I did with Dr. Laurie Weiss on my podcast, but really she enlightens us as to why wouldn't we have traumas based as writers based on our childhood and the way we were taught how to write, what not to do. There's so many strictures when you're learning to be a writer that they can come back to bite you later in life. And if these are not addressed with a tool like logosynthesis, they can hold you back from being the creative genius and writer you were born to be. Chapter 10, one of my favorite new ideas, is the alter ego. And you might notice how I've been wearing a hat in my latest offerings and videos because it's fun and because I learned it from what's in that chapter, the alter ego, to build your confidence and step into a person that you wouldn't normally be if you were just your old self without the hat. But look at me, feeling great in my hat, and there are lots of other tools you can use to boost your confidence and clarity as a writer. In Chapter 11, Internal Family Systems, IFS, is highly topical. Again, Elizabeth Gilbert and other writers find this concept that we have different parts very valuable in their creative writing. And that includes Alana Morissette, who wrote the foreword to Dick Schwartz's book, that we have no bad parts. That's the title of his book, No Bad Parts. And of course, I couldn't write this book and send it out into the world without realizing that ChatGPT is one of our greatest allies as writers and can be the engine of busting writer's block. And I've had such fun with that chapter. And you will too, because you will realize that ChatGPT, rather than being a threat, as some writers believe, if you combine it with your own wisdom and your own clever prompts, can be the answer to having a creative catalyst, a coach, and a collaborator on your writing side. And I love it, and you will too. So there we go. I hope that helps you understand what's in this book, which I've had so much pleasure writing because it shares from my heart what I believe is the key to a happy life and a happy writing life. Hoping this encourages you to read the book and write a great review for me. Thank you. Thanks for joining me on today's podcast. Want a free gift to inspire you further on your book writing adventure? My free checklist, 5 book hook tips to kickstart your book writing journey, will help you get clarity on the key essentials to make your book a winner. Download it at writethebookinsideyou.com/free gift. The links are in the show notes. Until next time, a big virtual hug and keep writing.